So if you had to pick a podium, someone to finish on the podium / wildcard winner, would it be Egan Bernal?
I'm doubting between Bernal and Mikel Landa.
Hi, I'm Spencer Martin, along with Johan Bruyneel, and this is Outcomes. Outcomes is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing in this podcast should be considered financial advice. Please gamble responsibly, and if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, seek help from a professional resource. Hosts and guests may have financial interest in the bets discussed. Past performance does not guarantee future results.
Everybody, welcome back to Outcomes. I'm Spencer Martin. I'm here with Johan Bruyneel, and we are predicting the 2025 and previewing Giro d'Italia. We will go through a light preview of the stages, and then pick the winner for stage one, and then we'll reveal our picks for the overall GC. A little bit of an unusual Giro d'Italia because it starts in Albania across the sea. The first three stages are there. We go take a plane, a ferry. I'll be curious, Johan, to get your thoughts on how that's going to work. They go to mainland Italy, and then they kind of work their way north for a 3-week race, but with the third week being in the mountains in the north of the country. A lot of climbing, but heavily weighted towards that third week. And then they are doing the finish in Rome, which they've done for the last few years. Just a quick breakdown. There's 7 stages I designate as mountain stages with 3 summit finishes, 7 hilly stages with 38 gravel kilometers in Tuscany, around Siena, I believe, kind of a retread. Yeah, retread of Strade Bianche. 5 flat stages, 2 individual time trials totaling 42.3 total kilometers. But before we get into who's going to win this entire race, Johan, let's just talk about stage 1 really quick. This year, in the last few years, it's pretty exciting what they do with these foreign starts. A lot of foreign starts are soft, but this kind of reminds me of Hungary, where we have a punchy first stage tomorrow. No, Friday stage, and then Saturday is a time trial. So we're like getting right into it. But the first stage has a second category climb in the middle of it, 13K long at 5.2%. And then you go into town, Tirani. We all know these towns. We know and love them. But it finishes on its 2 climbs. So it's 7K long, 5% average roughly. It's the same climb. They do it twice. It's a circuit. Probably it looks like a fast downhill right into the second edition of that climb, second pass of that climb, downhill right into the finish. So it's kind of designated as a sprint stage, but it's going to be really, really tricky. You have to be a technically adept rider to win that, and then you might have to out sprint someone, but it's not necessarily going to be a sprint. And the odds, I think the odds are very unusual. This is on Unibet in Europe. So Mads Pedersen's the favorite at plus 250. Caden Groves, sprinter, plus 500. Wout van Aert, plus 500. Paul Magnier, plus 1,000. Olav Koy, plus 1,100. Sam Bennett, plus 2,500. Filippo Fiorelli, plus 3,300. Dorian Godin, plus 3,300. Tom Pidcock, plus 3,300. Corbin Strong, plus 3,300. The odds make it read as though it's a sprint stage, but I'm not so sure, Johan. How do you think this first stage is going to play out?
Yeah, I'm surprised that the bookmakers think so sure that it's going to be a sprint stage. It might be, especially also because it's the first stage and everybody comes in fresh. But it's a short stage, 160K, 3 climbs. I'm going to go not for a bunch sprint stage, and I will pick Tom Pidcock to win tomorrow's stage. Of course, he won't have any trouble with the climbs. And I think that with the downhill, it's to be seen if it's a technical downhill, but anything which is downhill favors Tom Pidcock technically. And also he's fast. So I could foresee a little group. Either he can come in by himself or... but especially the odds. I mean, what is it? Plus 3,200?
Plus 3,300.
Okay, yeah.
Pidcock.
Yeah. That's why I think he's a good choice for tomorrow. I mean, it's a gamble, but I'm not sure it's going to be a bunch sprint, Spencer.
I'm not so sure either. I love that pick, actually. I didn't even look down far enough when I was glancing at this to see him. I was like, I wonder if Tom Pidcock's a DNF for this race. Plus 3,300 for Pidcock on a stage like this. That's a very good price. I'm going to go Wout van Aert plus 500. I mean, I said it, so it won't happen. He will not win now, but This is a pretty good stage for Wout van Aert. I mean, Mads Pedersen, the favorite at plus 250, doesn't really feel like a Mads Pedersen stage to me. Not saying he can't win, but it's finishing on the downhill. It just opens up a wealth of possibilities that Tom Pidcock or even Wout van Aert could benefit from. Same thing with Caden Groves. Is Caden Groves realistically going to hold on in those two climbs? I'd imagine if Q36.5 doesn't have the firepower to do it, you'd imagine Visma is going to be pressing the issue pretty hard on those climbs.
Well, that depends. I mean, Visma, I think, is in limbo a little bit because do they really want to make it hard to drop all the sprinters and with that, their sprinter, Olaf Koy? Or do they want to make it? Do they want to wait and see? And if Koy makes it, okay, and then if not, then Van Aert can sprint, right? I think it's going to have to come from teams like Q36.5, and they have nothing else to do in this race than just go for stage wins. And tomorrow is their first opportunity. Yeah, I mean, I like Pidcock's chances for tomorrow.
I'm going to go bet on him. I'm shocked that he's at this price. I think that's a very good pick. I mean, here's just a wild card I just looked at and thought of. And I know this is not going to be like the team's plan, but what about someone like Isaac Del Toro? Is it possible that he gets away on the climb or descent?
I don't know. I mean, it's not hard. I mean, he can get away, but then to keep it, there's always going to be teams with somebody who thinks that they can win the stage to try to chase it down. But hey, I think it's not set in stone tomorrow what the scenario will be. Friday, sorry. And there will be attacks on that climb. The question about Del Toro is what his duty is going to be. I think he will have to work for Ayuso to try to keep him in position. UAE will probably try to set the pace, not to make a difference in the peloton, but just to stay out of trouble. So I think Del Toro's chances for tomorrow are probably not great. Friday. I keep getting
in theory.
We're usually
I know.
this thing the day before the race. We're early
really
this time. We're early this year.
And then we should warn everyone. The race starts on Friday. It's on Max in the US. If you have Max, it's a great service. Highly recommend it. But then it's on Friday, and then Monday is a rest day. Just 3 days into the race because they're going to go back to Italy.
Transfer day.
Race picks up on Tuesday. I assume they fly back.
No,
Dave Bolsh and I were talking about this.
I think it's a ferry.
Okay. All right. So so the staff doesn't have to drive the cars
well, I mean, they have to they have to bring all the vehicles back. So I think the whole caravan goes on the ferry.
Okay, that's not too bad. So let's take a quick break for ads, and then we will talk about the GC and who we think is going to win this thing overall. All right, Johan, I'll read the odds for the overall, and then the cliff notes of this race are couple summit finishes, 7 mountain stages, backloaded into the third week, 2 short-ish time trials, the first happening just on stage 2, which is quite exciting, not holding anything back there. But the odds is on Unibet in Europe, similar odds on other books in the US. Primož Roglič is the favorite, plus 120. Juan Ayuso, plus 210. This means, by the way, if you bet $100 on Primož Roglič, you would get $120 of profit if he wins, for a total payout of $220. Juan Ayuso plus 210, Adam Yates plus 700, Derek G plus 2,000, Mika Landa plus 2,000, Michael Storer plus 2,000, Antonio Tiberi plus 2,000, Tymon Arnsben plus 3,300, Egan Bernal plus 3,300, Tom Pidcock plus 3,300. I don't know about that. Richard Carapaz plus 4,000, and then Jai Hindley plus 4,000. And the notable thing about that, the Egan Bernal, Richard Carapaz, and Jai Hindley have all won this race recently, and they're all below plus 3,300 in the odds. So that is crazy. It's quite unusual. Perhaps it's correct, but just off the top, who is your favorite to win this race?
Yeah, I think the fact that these guys have these numbers, it's logical. In Bernal's case, we all know where he comes back from. He's still trying to find his level. And if he can find that level, then the question is it good enough to win so many years later in today's peloton, right? Carapaz hasn't shown much this year, and Jay Hindley is for sure at the service of Primož Roglič. So I'm going to pick Primož Roglič to win. He's an executor, he's a calculator, and this race fits him perfectly. Plus, he has a very strong team. So Primož Roglič for the win for me.
That's a very good pick. For just full disclosure, I've actually put money on Primož Roglič about a month ago. He's 30. Here's the downsides. He's 35 years old. He has a history of crashing. Maybe slight inconsistency has picked up in recent years. I guess he was inconsistent here in 2019. But just, here's the pro case. This is crazy, by the way. So the last 7 Grand Tours he's completed, he's won 5 of them and finished on the podium of all of them. And then you might say, well, he crashes a lot. I looked this up. It's kind of like largely confined to the Tour, though. Like that's where his DNFs are happening. In non-Tour de France Grand Tours, this isn't in his entire career. He's only failed to finish a single one, and he won this race the last time he did it in 2023. So pretty good case for Primož Roglič. And he has a very strong Red Bull Bora team. Having said all that, I'm going to go, and this is like not what I'm uncomfortable even putting this on record, but I do think Juan Ayuso, 22 years old, he's had his wobbles in the last few years, but he's looked very good to me this year. I know he just got beat by Primož at Catalunya, but I think probably, frankly, this is a 2-man race, and the odds reflect that. I would pick Juan Ayuso at plus 210 if you've picked Primož, and he's the only rider I could really see challenging a healthy Primož Roglič. Just having the time trial and climbing ability and explosiveness, because Primož, the problem is he's going to be racking up time bonuses at this race along the way.
Yeah, I agree. Ayuso is the other big favorite. He's been in great shape this year already. He won 2 one-day races. One in France, then he won La Guelia, then he won Tirreno, and then he got second in Catalunya.
I think the only race he's lost is to Primož Roglič.
Yeah, and he lost it on the last day, by the way. Didn't seem to have a great day in Barcelona and on the circuit of Montjuic, but he has obviously the qualities. Has a very strong team around him. Adam Yates, Isaac Del Toro, Brandon McNulty, Rafael Majka, Jay Vine. I mean, that's a scary setup. I mean, and then there's probably two other guys for the flats. If you look at Red Bull Bora, they have Primož Roglič, they have Dani Martinez, who finished second last year in the Giro. They have Jay Hindley, who won the Giro. They have Giulio Pellizzari, who's been very, very strong this year, and the good old and loyal Jan Tratnik, the lieutenant of Primož Roglič. To name these 5 really strong riders. So if you look at both teams, I think they're worth each other. I just think that Primož has more consistency, more experience. Juan Ayuso has finished once third in a Grand Tour in his first year as a 19-year-old. Then I think he finished 4th or 5th in another Vuelta, but he crashed. So he does not have the experience yet. In his favor, of course, he's young. He's in great shape this season, and this is his main goal of the season. Don't know if he's going to do the Vuelta afterwards, probably, but he's the leader, or at least in his mind, he's the leader of Team UAE. Maybe Adam Yates, but I think Adam Yates is professional enough and experienced enough to know that Ayuso's probably a bit stronger for the moment. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a case in favor and against both candidates, but I'm going to go for the consistency, the experience, and the meticulous execution of Primož Roglič over Juan Ayuso. Ultimately, I mean, there's going to come a point where Ayuso is going to overtake Roglič. I don't know if it's this year already.
The thing about Roglič that I feel like people overlook, he wins a lot. Like a lot. Like if you add up the top 20 favorites of this Giro, Primož Roglič has more career Grand Tour wins than the rest of them combined. And that's counting Egan Bernal, Richard Carapaz, and Jai Hindley. And Bernal is 2 of them. So just he just wins. It's not very scientific analysis, but at a certain point in cycling, it's good to be able to win races. And this is also where it gets more interesting. So if you think of Roglič and Ayuso as the two favorites, let's say they're healthy, that's going to hurt like Adam Yates' ability to compete for the win. And I don't know, Adam Yates hasn't been showing us amazing form this year. I think he might just be here in a support role unless you really pull something out. And
also, Spencer, speaking about Adam Yates is a great rider, of course, but he's never been in contention to win a Grand Tour. He's finished third in the Tour de France at the service of Pogačar. But other than that, he's never been up there to win, actually, right? His brother, Simon, won the Vuelta a long time ago already. We don't even speak about him anymore. But
he's in this race, isn't he?
He's in this race, and we don't even think about him as a candidate. I'm actually going to add him too, because I have a list here of other favorites. And to my surprise, Simon Yates is not even on this.
It's crazy. And I mean, here's what's Adam Yates. You're right. That's a very good point. He's never really threatened to win a Grand Tour. He got fourth in his first Tour de France ever. Mm-hmm. And then he only bettered that one time, which was in 2023. He got third. So that's another good data point. Has this person challenged to win a Grand Tour before in their life? And not many of these top favorites.
There's a big difference, Spencer, between being a podium candidate and getting on the podium barely. Listen, getting on the podium of a Grand Tour, it's a huge accomplishment. Don't get me wrong, right? You have to be a very good rider to be on the podium of a Grand Tour. But between that and winning or challenging to win, it's a big difference still.
So those are our two favorites. I think probably 2-man race if they're healthy. I mean, even on Roglič, so like Danny Martinez, you might say, has a great chance. Jai Hindley, just in theory. But if Roglič is riding well, like those guys they're not going to be able to challenge because they're going to be working for Primož. So a lot of these top favorites behind them are locked up on their team. So if these two perform well, they're going to cancel out a lot of people that could finish on the podium. But if those two don't win, who's your wild card to win? And then who do you think is a good chance to finish on the podium?
Man, if those two don't win, it's because something's going to happen to them. Either they're completely out of shape, which is very unlikely, or something else happens. I have a list here of other favorites, right? And it's a stretch, but I have Mikel Landa, who is obviously going to be the leader of Soudal Quickstep. Has he ever been close to winning a Grand Tour? No.
That's crazy. That he's never threatened to win a Grand Tour. I can't believe that.
I mean, I would say one year. I remember 1 year. I don't remember which year it was. In the Giro, he was on Astana,
2015, I believe, right?
And I think that it's the Giro that Contador won. He was amazing there. Rode very strong. This is 10 years ago. Let's not forget.
It's a decade ago. Man, I feel like that just happened. Wow.
Yeah. Then you have Richard Carapaz. He's on my list of other favorites. Is he? I mean, he's won the Giro already, and he's been second in the Giro, and he's been third in the Tour. He's been podium in the Vuelta. Is this still the Richard Carapaz that we have seen in the past? I don't think so. I think that ship has sailed. Then I have Antonio Tiberi. Never been in a position. He was third, last year, or was he? No.
Fifth, actually.
Fifth.
I had to look that up. Yeah,
it was Geraint Thomas and Ben O'Connor and Tiberi. Anyways, good rider. Also never been in a position to win a Grand Tour, not yet. Egan Bernal, of course, we have to talk about him. He won the Tour and he won the Giro, so it would be very disrespectful to not name him as an underdog favorite. The question is, how good is Egan Bernal, right? What we've seen until now is not supporting the fact that he's a candidate to win if something else happens with these other two favorites. Same goes for, that's a stretch already. You have Tijmen Arendsman. That's a top 5 candidate at most, if everything goes well. Not even a podium candidate. Derek G. You could say, okay, could be a podium candidate. We haven't seen that yet in a Grand Tour, yeah? He did a great Tour de France last year, but I think 8th or 9th. That's not close to podium in a Grand Tour. We have Giulio Ciccone, just comes fresh off a second place in Liège, was riding really well in Tour of the Alps, but is that level good enough to be a podium candidate? Michael Sturrer was very, very dominant in Tour of the Alps, but we've never seen him perform at the highest level in a Grand Tour for GC. So, I mean, there's a list of guys, but I can't see any of those guys win it, honestly.
Yeah, I think the first episode outcomes we ever did was for the Giro d'Italia 2022, and I'm having flashbacks of Giantly winning that out of nowhere. Was that the year? Was that 2022? I think that was. But I agree with you. Getting that out of the way, but my worst case scenario that one of these guys now wins it, I agree with you. The one I would quibble with, though, and maybe I'm biased, Derek G at plus 2,000. The only pushback I would provide there is
Spencer.
But he just started racing GC last year. Everyone else you mentioned has we have big data set, and you're like, you usually don't like just become a great GC rider after not being a great GC rider. Andy just has a lot of power. Like if I'm just going on like, well, there's a lot of climbs at this race, you have to be good at sustained power and you can time trial well. That would be Derek G.
Yeah, for sure.
That would be my wild card probably.
Wild card. Yeah, I would say candidate for top 5 at most, Spencer. Not podium. I mean, there's always somebody who gets on the podium that sometimes nobody expects him, right? In the case of Derek G, listen, he's a great rider. He can climb. He can time trial. There's not enough time trial kilometers in this race to really put an advantage on a guy like that. Plus, I do think that Primož and Ayuso are equal or better time trialists than Derek G. And then Derek G doesn't have the team to support him as a leader or as a candidate for a win to win a Grand Tour. The Israel Premier Tech don't have the depth in team support.
Here's what's interesting too. Derek G, Mika Landa, both plus 2,000 to win. Derek G plus 650 to podium. Mika Landa plus 300 to podium. That's quite interesting because I was just about to say, should we lock Mika Landa in as the podium, the non-Primož Ayuso podium contender? This feels like we're hurtling towards a Mika Landa third place at this race.
Yeah. Well, I will have to go back. I haven't really checked the results of Mika Landa, but have we seen enough from Mika Landa? And anyway, listen, he's an experienced rider. He knows how to prepare, even if we haven't seen enough of Mika Landa.
Yeah, he's been pretty good this year, though.
Yeah. But nothing that sticks out, really.
Well, that's his genius, right? He's always hiding in plain sight. Well, I mean, what did he get at the Tour last year? Did he get 4th at the Tour last year?
Fifth.
Yeah. Because he didn't have a great vault, though. But he gets 7th at Tirreno, and you'd say, well, that's a bad result. Gets 11th at Strade Bianche, pretty good result. Gets 7th at Tirreno, you'd say, well, that's not good. That was a weird race with a time trial and one tiny climb, and then 4th at Catalunya, which is not a terrible result. So he's like in the Enric Mas zone, I would say.
Yeah. Did he do the Basque Country?
No, it's kind of a light schedule. Yes.
Okay.
And then, I mean, this is actually tough trying to pick this third podium spot because the other two I would actually really flag. Michael Storer, who just won Tour of the Alps, he's plus 2,000 to win, plus 300 to podium. And then Jay Vine, plus 5,000 to win, plus 1,200 to podium. And I think Ayuso winning or getting second is not totally disqualifying for Jay Vine the way people ride these days, where they don't fully set up.
Yeah. I mean, I'd be more tempted to think about Egan Bernal then for the podium.
Plus 500 to podium.
He does have the experience. He's super talented. We all know that. I could see him on the podium rather than any of those other guys, except Mikel Landa.
And he would ride specifically for the podium. I mean, that would be such a big result.
And especially since the Giro, since the course of the Giro is really heavy on mountains in the last week, Bernal is a typical three-week stage racer. Recovers really well, is strong in the last week. Whereas others sometimes tend to fade away after mid-race.
And this thing has like 53,000 meters of climbing, and last year's had 45,000, I believe. So
it's hard.
And then interestingly, not a lot of days over 200 kilometers. So I'm looking 3 days over 200K. So that means a lot of like climbing packed into short-ish mountain stages, which
I mean, if you look, I've made some notes here. Stage 16 is a stage of more than 5,000 meters. Then stage 17 has the Mortirolo, not finished on the Mortirolo, but we all know how hard the Mortirolo is. And then stage 20 is a very hard stage with Sestriere and Col de Finestre. The question is, are they going to be able to ride over the Col de Finestre? The reports are that there's still snow there right now. We know of Col de Finestre from famously Chris Froome turning around the Giro. I don't know, was it 2016 or 17?
That was 18, right?
18, yeah.
Because that's the last race Chris Froome won, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a super hard climb. You know, it's almost 20 kilometers. The last 10 kilometers are gravel. Super hard climb. Putting that in the second last stage, it could turn around everything. Now, hopefully they can do it. I mean, I hope. They're pretty inventive in Italy. They sometimes they've managed to get the snow removed on the last moment. So I hope we can see the Col de Finestre on the second last day, and hopefully it's still close, and we will find out there who's going to win the Giro.
I mean, we do have 3 weeks, but yeah, it snowed like 3 feet in the mountains around my house yesterday. So winter is still around.
You're in the United States.
Similar elevation, though. I do feel like people forget. They're like, spring is here, the Giro is here. It's like, well, in the mountains, it still could snow a lot, but they do have quite a bit of time to hope that clears up.
Yeah, and usually they always have an alternative, the Giro. And as usual, Spencer, it's the Giro. We will not know until the day before. There's going to be panic, chaos
at the start line. We will know the day of.
That's the Italians, and they will find a way out and a solution, and I'm sure it's going to be a good one.
And we will not see half the stages on TV because we'll lose coverage in the mountains.
That's
for some reason.
That's the downside of the Giro.
So if you had to pick a podium, someone to finish on the podium / wildcard winner, would it be Egan Bernal?
I'm doubting between Bernal and Mikel Landa. I'll go for Bernal then.
Okay, Mikel Landa plus 2,000. It's plus 300. It's priced in. People know his move.
Yeah.
He's going for third. The crazy thing about Landa is, I was thinking to sound like I'm insulting him, but he's the type of rider that if both Roglič and Ayuso crashed out, like he's so coded to race for the podium, I don't even know if he would win.
Yeah.
Like whoever he will finish behind someone, but he will probably finish on the podium. And then what do you think about Storer? Like, is that not going to translate to Giro?
It's always tricky to pick somebody who has shown extreme form. Listen, he was very strong in Tour of the Alps. Let's also say you have to consider the competition, right? But he was strong. He was riding very strong in the climbs. Never seen something from him in the Grand Tours for GC. Obviously, there's going to come a day where he will do it, but between thinking like that and then saying he can win the Giro, no, I don't see that happening.
It is surprising. I'm now like flipping through examples in my head, but it's surprising how few riders, kind of the riders that are good at Grand Tours are the riders that are good at Grand Tour. You like rarely see 1 week stage racers then transition successfily to the Grand Tours later in their career.
Yeah. And it's also very, very difficult to maintain that peak form. Let's say, Tour of the Alps is 2 weeks ago. So 2 weeks ago. So you're thinking about that's a 6 week period, right? It's 1.5 months to be on top form. Where if you look, for example, at Ayuso and Primož, to name the two other favorites, they've peaked to this. They haven't raced. They've meticulously prepared, and they're going to come into the start of the Giro in top form without having, and everything was programmed in their training. So they didn't spend, useless energy in trying to win a race, because Sturr, for example, to just give one example, he had to do two crazy rides, like digging really deep in his energy reserves to win that race. One was he had to ride 40 kilometers on his own in pursuit of Arendsman, and then the day after he rode like 40 kilometers on his own to drop Arendsman. That's a lot of energy, and that's 2 weeks ago. So if we add another week, and we go to the last week of the Giro, that's 5 weeks. To keep that shape for such a long time, it's difficult.
Yeah, no, that does seem like it stretches the imagination. And then on Jay Vine, you're like, wow, you did great at Romandy. Same problem you just described, and also he got dropped by Lorenzo Fortunato on the Queen stage. So if you really start to dig into that performance, it's like, am I that confident in Jay Vine? Before we take off, I have two questions for you. Mountains classification. This stuck out to me. It's kind of weird. The favorite, George Steinhauser, plus 900. Richard Carapaz plus 1,200. That could happen. Michael Storer plus 1,400. And then Wout van Aert plus 1,600. Below Wout van Aert, Primož Roglič plus 1,800. So that seems kind of low for Primož.
What we've seen lately in Grand Tours is that the mountain classification is of no interest for the GC guys. And it's usually somebody who goes in breakaways, gets enough points together, and then tries to hang on or try to go in breakaways in the big mountain stages and score points on the first and the second climb, and then gets dropped on the last climb. That's the scenario typically, except for example last year. Pogačar won almost all the jerseys in the Giro, I think. Yeah, that's a difficult one, man. The mountains classification, plus it's the Giro. It's not like the Tour. The Tour, if you win the Pogačar jersey in the Tour, that's kind of a prestige. Mountains jersey in Giro and Vuelta, nobody really knows. It's nice to be on the podium every day for the sponsors, but it's not like a prestigious. The points jersey is different. The points jersey is different. If you win the points classification in the Giro, the La Maglia Ciclamino, and then the green jersey in the Vuelta, that's kind of more of a trophy to take home than the mountains classification, I would say.
Yeah, now that you mention it, so 2022 won by Ken Bauman. 2023 Thibaut Pinot, Derek G second actually, and then 2024 was Tadej, because there's no way he could have lost it. But you're right, it is kind of a wild card usually. That Carapaz one kind of stuck out. Even Storer. I wonder if Storer. You're right. This is tough, but Carapaz has shown us that he will buckle in for a KOM fight. But yeah, for the Giro d'Italia, maybe not. I don't know. The Michael Storer one, kind of interesting actually. But
Storer could win the KOM, yeah,
because that's big for him
and for the team.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely because they're a wild card invite, right? They didn't. Yeah. Tutor.
Well, yeah, wild card. Yeah, wild card / sponsor, I would say.
Oh, those are two separate departments. They need to touch each other. And then last question for you: points classification. This is sneaky going to be maybe the most interesting part of this race. Mads Pedersen, the favorite, plus 120. Wout van Aert plus 400. It's like a little disrespectful, I feel like. And then Caden Groves plus 450. Olaf Koy plus 700. I would go with the underdog Van Aert there at plus 400.
Me too. Because of the odds. Listen, Pedersen deserves respect. He's a great rider. He will perform. He knows how to race for these classifications. He's won in the Vuelta already, I guess. The points classifications. Van Aert has won it in the Tour. He did win the green jersey in the Tour, no?
Van Aert, and then he would have won the green jersey.
He would have won the points jersey in the Vuelta and the mountain jersey. I think I would probably choose Van Aert over Pedersen because he comes into form. He's finished his classic season. Pedersen, by the way, the same. He also, had a great performance in the classics. But I have the impression that Pedersen was at his peak in the classics, and Van Aert still needs to reach his peak. I'm going to pick Van Aert over Pedersen for the points jersey.
Yeah, and I'm definitely not saying that. I think Pedersen will win stages here, potentially even more stages than Van Aert. But Van Aert, when he's fit, he can climb so well.
I think why the odds are like this, Spencer, is probably because obviously they have identified these two guys as fast and very complete riders who will get through the stages. I think they choose Pedersen over Van Aert because they assume that Van Aert will, in some sprint stages, be at the service of Olaf Kooi. And Pedersen will be sprinting for himself. That's probably why the difference in the odds.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm still picking Van Aert. Feels
me too. Yeah,
low for him. And then just to recap, Johan thinks Primož. I'm going Juan Ayuso for the overall. Stage 1, Tom Pidcock plus 3,300. That's the pick of the show. If you take one thing away from the show, do that. Wout van Aert plus 500 to win. Mika Landa, if I'm picking a podium contender, plus 300. Johan has Egan Bernal plus 500. And then definitely watch this opening weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday on Max in the US. Like I said, it's going to be quite exciting with the lack of pure sprint stages, but maybe sprint stages. I like that. But Johan, if you were going to give someone they could watch one stage of this race, what do you think the best mountain stage is going to be?
In terms of stage 16, stage 16 is super hard. But the most exciting stage, in my opinion, if they get over the Col di Finestra, would be stage 20.
Yeah, I agree. And that could decide the race.
Yeah.
Second to last day of the race. Who knows? Primož, he doesn't like to run up. He doesn't run up scores. He did oddly at the Vuelta last year. He won by a lot more than I remembered, but traditionally he doesn't get big gaps. So it still could be tight gaps going into that final weekend, which is something we haven't really seen in recent Grand Tours. But anything else, Johan, before we take off?
No, that's it. That's it for me. I'm looking forward to this battle between UAE and Red Bull Bora.
And we'll be back daily on Friday. We'll be recapping Friday's stage and then predicting the next stage during that episode. So we'll talk to everyone on Friday.
Okay. Speak soon.
All right. Bye.